Hello, beautiful. How are you? And how are you taking care of yourself today? This is Heidi Uster, joyful coach and storyteller, and ready to walk with you as you uncover all of the blocks, those internal pesky blocks you can't quite figure out, don't know what's going on, but you are not living a joyful life in peace and flow. And it's more like exhaustion and frustration. And sometimes it's like one thing after another. And I am ready to walk with you to identify those so that you may find a life that you can live in joy. And if you want, I can also give you tools to find and unleash your inner joyful purpose. All right. So, how are you doing today? Today, we are talking about my dog. She might be snuffling here. I'm going to try to cup her up and see if she will settle down. I have one dog who tends to love when I get online and he barks at me. So hopefully we don't have that. And I have another dog that is hopefully not going to bark at all the other random noises that are happening in my house. So just in case you are listening to this and hear some weird snuffles or barks, you know what is going on, that Olive and Elvis are on fire today. So, what are we talking about today? So, a couple months ago, I was meeting some new friends in a networking group, and one of them said they had listened to this podcast. And the podcast said it's almost impossible to learn from your own mistakes. It's much quicker and faster and easier to just look at where other people messed up and don't make those mistakes in your life. But we're human, right? We are on our own path and we're inevitably going to meet with situations that don't measure up to maybe our expectations or our goals, or something comes out of our mouth that we didn't intend to come out, and we're going to have mistakes. So, as this is a play shop, whether or not you are watching live or on the listening to the replay, please send me your questions or your scenarios about frustrating situations in which you felt like you made a mistake and you can't seem to get over it. So those hurdles, and so that we can, I can give you some tools and you can learn how to move through. So in this networking group, this woman said, all right, much easier. This podcast person said it's much easier to learn from other people's mistakes. But we're living our own lives, right? If we were only meant to learn from other people's mistakes, would we really have the capacity for all of that internal mental chatter that goes on all day, every day? I think it's like our brain makes like tens of thousands of different comments all the time to us. So I think any one of those would be, think about it. If you were talking to yourself and you caught yourself talking crap about yourself because you made a mistake, wouldn't that be much faster than thinking, oh, what are some kind of mistakes that other people are making and let's go research them? Yes, that avoids like maybe a little emotional bump, but we can learn so much faster when we learn to pay attention to what's going on in our lives and not so much focusing on other people and their stories. I mean, it's great to learn from other people's stories and our own. So I will say the solution really here is a twofold solution. Yes, it's very important to find your thought leaders and find people that you look up to and admire, and you're like, all right, how are they showing up? And I want to see if that feels right for me. But also being able to tune into that internal conversation and find what's going on there and also learn. Okay. So yes, you can email me at howdy@HeidiEsther.com. You can also feel free to comment on the threads if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. Okay. So first, I want to tell a story. I am mere minutes away from picking my kids up at school so that I can take them to their dentist appointment. However, I can't find my car key, again, for the millionth time. And the thing that pops in my head every time is this thing that goes on between my parents. My mom stands there, sometimes with her hands on her hips, sometimes not, rolling her eyes at my dad, who can't find his keys or his gloves or his wallet or something like that. And then this internal chatter says, geez, Heidi, Apple didn't fall too far, did it? And I feel that same weight from my mom, right? The eye rolling. So the heat just rises in my face. I can feel my heart beating in my chest. It's like I see my kids freaking out and they're like, where's mom? What's going on? My stomach drops. And yes, I have to go waste a precious minute and go to the bathroom before beginning my search again. Thoughts race through my head like, what purse did I use last? It rained this morning. Maybe it's in my raincoat. I look in both places super fast. No luck. So where could that extra car key be? So I look in the spot it's supposed to be and it's not there. But I had it in my purse on vacation. Maybe the extra key isn't there. No luck. Oh, maybe it's still in the armrest in the car, where we kind of put it for emergency. That would help me right now. Because if my car's locked with an extra car key, right? So the punishment in my head just continues and continues. Damn it, Heidi. So stupid. How could we be so absent-minded? How can I? And then the thoughts spiral even worse. How can I be trusted with running a household when I can't keep track of my keys? I text my kids that it's going to be a few extra minutes. So I decided might as well see if I left the car unlocked to see if the extra key was in the car. And that's when I noticed something weird. The front door is not completely closed. I turn the handle and voila! All my keys are hanging from the front door key. So now I remember I opened the door and I had a couple packages to bring in while I blocked the escape route for the dogs. And yes, it was raining and everything was crazy. And the dogs were both yelling at me because they had to go outside. And I completely forgot to take the keys. Simple mistake. I'm just human. So what happened here? So let's break it down. What happened here in this scenario? 1, I started calling myself names. 2, I brought in punishment and shame that wasn't even mine. And it was from another time. It was from my mom to my dad, not to me. And, maybe if it was a different scenario, I could have blamed other people for the loss of keys or the rain or the lack of caffeine in my system in the morning or my past self, saying whose idea was it anyway to put the extra car key in the car versus, where it's supposed to be in the house. So, okay, let's fast forward a few years and revisit a similar scenario. I am starting a new swimming regimen this winter. I did swim regularly during the summer. And as I know myself, in our small house, there is no room for extra swim stuff in my room. So what I ended up doing after the summer was I like kind of like shoved it in a few different places so that it would fit, right? Like me, my closet. I have some like wire storage bins. I have a bag pile, like a backpack pile. So I do my search. And no matter how hard I looked, I could not find something. I could not find my anti-fog goggle spray. And my goggles are pretty beat up after the summer. So it was like total necessary. It wasn't by my waterproof phone holder that I use for the beach. It wasn't in my swim bag that I found in the backpack pile. It wasn't at the bottom of the backpack pile or like in a couple other random places. I also asked my wife if she could help look too. So instead of calling myself those names from last time, here's what went on in my head. Okay, Heidi, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look. We're going to see if we can find it. Then we're going to ask for help. And if all else fails, we are going to stop wasting our precious time and just buy a new spray. And then what we're going to do is put it in a special place where it will be safe in the winter swim bag. Okay. So totally similar scenario, right? I misplaced something. Keys first time, anti-fog goggle spray second time. What changed? One, I accepted that I misplaced things. I'm middle-aged. Sometimes I misplace things. Actually, I've always kind of misplaced things. I am a pretty organized person. And I misplace things. I also acknowledge that my time is valuable. So the tsunamis of the shame and the blame did not reach my shores because I know I'm worthy of feeling good about myself all the time, no matter what happens. So since then and now, I have taken a sacred vow to not talk shit about myself or other people ever again. Yes. It's kind of like a vow of kindness inside and outside. Okay. That is my story of missing keys and missing goggle spray. And I would love to know what you think. So before we get to the steps, I want to talk a little bit about, well, people might say, okay, so you make a mistake and it's good to acknowledge that there was a mistake and give ourselves a hard time so we don't make it in the future. There's been countless studies about negative reinforcement versus positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement creates bigger armor and bigger shells around people. So also known as resistance. So, but because we are resistant and we feel bad and we got all these feelings of shame, most of the time we never end up actually going through the process of learning because we're too focused on feeling bad. That's why they say if you work with your kids and talk with them about what happened and give them like constructive consequences versus being like, you're so stupid, don't do that again, then you can actually affect positive changes in your kids. It's kind of like you have to be firm and you have to be kind. So the negative consequences doesn't work. And if you're a pet owner, at least a dog owner, for sure, negative reinforcement is completely out. You just make your dog's scared of you, and then they're just scared of everything. If you do positive reinforcement, they learn to associate positive things with something that was originally just very terrifying for them. My Chewini is completely, well, when we got her, she was completely reactive to other dogs. When we walked her, she was just like Cujo. Like she was just lunging and she was like growling and all that kind of stuff. Right. And when she sees a dog, she will start pulling, but then she looks at me because you know what I do? I give her treats. So now she associates other dogs with treats. So sometimes there's not nary a growl or a pull. She just waits for treats. So if you need any convincing, let that convince you. That's real life proof of positive reinforcement over time. Okay. So yeah, so let's ditch the calling names. Let's ditch bringing in punishment and shame from other people at other times. And then blame, what does that do? Blaming other people, that only drives a rift between you and them, and that doesn't resolve anything. Right? That's just your ego saying, hey, you get to take the fall for this, sucker. Yeah, that doesn't create a lasting relationship or a constructive foundation for a relationship to grow upon. Nope. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about the different ways, the different steps to get to painlessly learn from mistakes. Okay, the first thing is reframing. So instead of saying, I made a mistake, or, going into any of those I am statements like I am stupid, I am dumb. Okay, we're going to reframe mistakes as immediately when something goes unexpected, right? Or some not according to plan. You just say, all right, what's my lesson here? What do I need to learn here? Like my daughter just texted me this morning and she was like, my math grade isn't what I want it to be. And she was freaking out. And I was like, how can you help yourself get it to where you need it to be? And she's like, well, I'm going to talk to my teacher. And I was like, well, that's a great start. Right. Right. Taking the positive steps, taking that shame out of it, saying, so she didn't go down this rabbit hole like, she's stupid at math or anything like that. Right. She bypassed that completely and moved on to like, all right, what I was doing wasn't working. What am I going to do now to improve my math grade and get it to where I want it to be? So view everything as a potential lesson instead of a mistake. Okay. The second one, maybe this should have been the first one. I call it adulting. Okay. So yeah. So this is where we don't do any blame. Even if you think something is somebody else's fault, there is always something you can learn from a scenario that didn't work out as you expected. Even if you learned to relax your expectations, your perfectionist expectations. So take responsibility for what is yours to own. Yes, this means that you need to put down the ego shield, and you might have to build up a little humility. Very important adulting skill. I might add it kind of softens people. People don't bristle at you and block you out. So take responsibility for what is yours to own. And another key of adulting here, this one I think is pretty important. Practice radical acceptance for everything that you did. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay that you did what you did. Just this is how you are. And that is a beautiful, sometimes hot mess. And that is okay. So adulting, responsibility and radical acceptance for all of your beautiful self. Okay. This is probably my favorite step right here. Be like Don Miguel. Yep. Don Miguel Ruiz is the author and a Toltec shaman of, he wrote a lot of books. But the one that changed my life was the 4 Agreements. 4 simple truths that were shared in his lineage of Native peoples that he was able to put into a book and share with us folks here on planet Earth. And 2 of them are especially relevant to all the crap that goes on in our heads. 1 is be impeccable with your word. So yes, this is what it means to turn off the negative filter outward and the negative filter inward. Just don't talk shit about yourself or others. It doesn't help. What does it help? What does it help? Right? It doesn't help anything. Talking shit about yourself doesn't help you learn what's going on and grow and evolve. It doesn't make you any happier. It makes your ego, it maybe inflates your ego a little bit if you put other people down. But that is not what we're about here. Be impeccable with your word. Second, always do your best. If you vow to always do your best, yeah, some days we wake up and we're tired. We have a lot of anxiety. We have a day that has no breathing room when we get to the end of the day and we're just completely spent. All we can do is be our best in every minute of our day. And sometimes that looks different. Sometimes I have to I realize that I'm a little cranky. So I schedule in a 15-minute little power nap or something. And sometimes I don't get that. And so I just meet myself with compassion and I just do the best I can in any moment. My wife and I are in a complete time of transition right now, financially and with our schedules. And we have one kid gonna get his license soon and the other one gonna get it in 10 months. And so everything is in complete influx. And so everything is always different. So we are doing the best we can. We are working with what we got. We're learning new stuff and we're trying new things. And that's it. That's all we can do, right? We practice radical acceptance for everything that we try. We do some adulting and then we try to always do our best. Yeah. So, if you have to breathe compassion into that inner critic because your best is going to be different. Forgive yourself for not measuring up to what you thought. Practice humility and a little grace because you were trying your best. So this really kind of gets to the crux of this step 4 of this whole mistakes thing. So when you are worthy to feel radically good inside all the time, the inner critic goes away. This is what happened in my life. It was kind of like this amazing period of time where I decided that I loved myself so much that I will no longer accept any negativity coming inwards towards myself if I can help it. Of course, I'm human and I have my slip-ups and I forgive myself and I move on. So I call this engage the baby. Think of a picture of yourself when you were little. You could be a baby, you could be a little kid, you could be even in high school. So some image of yourself that fills your heart with the sparkles and pride that you are still this beautiful little child, little baby. I always envision me dressed in a scratchy wool green and white cheerleading uniform. I was a cheerleader for my brother's football teams when I was growing up, when I was little. I was a mascot. I started at age 5 or 4. I don't know. I was very young. But anyway, I just loved that little Heidi to death because she was getting to encourage and cheer on her family and she was full of positivity. She probably wasn't super coordinated, but she just loved every single minute of it. So would you talk crap, this stuff, to that inner, beautiful, innocent piece of you? No. All of your past yous, your present you, and your future you are just as worthy as that little child. So practice showing up to know that all of you is worthy to feel brilliant and feel good every day of your life. Engage your baby. I would love to know which version of you that you pick in this visualization. You can email me howdy@heidiester.com or just put your comments in the chat. Okay. Here is the really fun exercise. This is the last step. Step 5. It's called the flip side. Okay, so take a coin. And do I even have a coin here? Oh God, this is my desk, and it's full of all sorts of chapstick and chocolate, but no coins. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So, take one side of a coin. Say, okay, on this side, this is what happened. So this is the inciting incident that made you feel like you made a mistake or you're pissed off at somebody. Okay. So you got that one. On the other side, you flip it over and you immediately say, all right, what could be my lesson here? So think about all the different things that you can learn in this moment. So immediately you have one side is the incident and the other side is your potential lessons. All right. And to tie them together, I say that the coin is made shiny by gratitude. So think about once you get a little away and you're able to understand what your lessons are, you can revisit that scenario and say, what are you grateful for? So in my keys example, I would say, okay, so I couldn't find my keys and I was running late. That's the incident. Flip the coin. Other side. What are my lessons? Maybe I need to have a set spot for my keys and always put it there. Maybe I need more space in my morning because I was so rushed and I left my keys in there. Maybe I need to leave my Amazon boxes outside until I get myself and my dog squared away. Okay, those could be my lessons. Why? What am I grateful for about this scenario? 1, I'm grateful who have dogs who want to see me when I get home. Grateful to have money to get stuff delivered from Amazon at all. And then I am grateful to have patience to walk around and try to find my keys with maybe like a hot cup of coffee in my hand or tea and not be running around beating myself up. So now here is the real icing on the coin. This is how I practice my coin exercise. So we have one side is the incident, second side is the lessons. Once we get a little bit further along, then we move into being grateful for what we learned. And then the icing on the cake, because it is so hard as women and as helpers to receive things. So the coup de grace, the icing on the coin is practicing being proud. So in this instance, I would say, all right, I am proud of figuring out all of my stuff and learning to set a spot for my keys. And I'm proud that I was patient enough to stay with myself while I found my keys. And then I was proud in my goggles finding escapade that I was able to show up with compassion and 0% judgment. So that is like the next level, right? The gratitude is so important. It's like a superpower, but feeling proud of how you showed up in that moment also kind of like wraps your heart around an extra shininess. Okay. All right. The last thing is an affirmation. So a lot of times instead of going around, right? Now that I go around, especially with the goggles, I don't beat myself up. So what do I say to myself in my head instead? I say, I am patient and organized. I can figure this out. I'm a human in progress. So, replacing all that negative talk with affirmations that you've already been working on for yourself in your life to feel good will help you in that instance. It's kind of like doing affirmation practice so that when the crap hits the brain, you have a practice you can fall back on. So important. And so, speaking of affirmations, I have the Snowman of affirmation, and I am going to, here it is, rustling, rustling. I'm going to pick one out for this conversation. Okay. The affirmation is, I surround myself with people who love, honor, and support me. How appropriate is that? Including yourself. I love that. I love that. It's so appropriate. Snowman of affirmation never fails. All right. I would love to know what you think about learning, painlessly learning from your mistakes. And I am sending you love, light, and laughter. Until next time, I'm Heidi Esther.